Good evening, I'm Randy McElvoy, and this is the Luhnow interview, an exclusive conversation with former Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow. His first one-on-one since the cheating scandal and his firing. Tonight, Luhnow tells his side of the story about a team that was riding high on years of victories and accolades until it all came crashing down. Luhnow has said all along he did not know about the sign stealing. And as you're about to hear, he says there is evidence to back it up. And what about his punishment? Was he expecting it to be as severe as it was? KPRC Channel 2's Vanessa Richardson now with the Luhnow interview.
Jeff, January 13th was a life-changing day for you, I'm sure. What was that day like from your perspective?
It's not a day I ever want to relive, and it's not a day I would ever want even my worst enemy to have to live through. It was the culmination of 2 pretty rough months, finding out in early November that our team had indeed broken the rules and had indeed cheated in 2017 and in parts of 2018 was devastating to me. It was devastating to our fans. And getting suspended by Major League Baseball, because I was GM during that time, I figured I was going to get some punishment. I figured I was looking at some suspension because I was the GM. I was not expecting a year-long suspension. I was certainly not expecting for the team that I had spent 8 years building to fire me, let me go. So it was tough, no question about it. I didn't know we were cheating. I had no idea. I wasn't involved. And it felt like on that day that I was getting punished for something that I didn't do, and it didn't feel right.
From the beginning, you've had the same story, which is that you did not know about cheating on any level. When was the first time you heard anything about the Astros cheating in any capacity?
There had been some rumors in 2018, and in fact, at 2 points in time, someone from MLB told me either in a casual conversation or called me and said there had been rumors of the Astros sign stealing in 2017, but I wasn't asked to follow up on it. There was no, they weren't asking me to do anything. It was sort of a heads up, and I didn't think we were doing anything, so I didn't pursue it. I did a lot to try and prevent us from doing anything wrong. After the Red Sox and the Yankees were punished in 2017, I had a conversation with our manager, and I asked him if anybody in our dugout was using Fitbits or Apple Watches or anything that would be remotely considered against the rules. He told me that one of our coaches had been using an Apple Watch, but after the incident with the Red Sox had stopped wearing it because clearly we weren't supposed to be doing that. He did not tell me anything else about trash can banging or any impropriety. I followed up with 2 other people in the baseball operations area, one on the medical side and one of the people that works for me, and made sure that they knew the rules and made sure that we were following the rules. In the general managers meetings after the World Series, after we won, which was only a week after we had our parade, I argued for and voted for MLB to enforce the sign stealing rules by putting a monitor in the clubhouses the next year. And they did. In 2018, they did put a monitor in. They only put 1 monitor in the stadium that would bounce between the clubhouses, and that unfortunately left some opportunity for some wrongdoing to continue in 2018. I also had a meeting during spring training with our coaching staff, with Major League Baseball officials to talk about the new rules. And during the season in 2018, about 5 different times, either because I noticed it myself or because MLB called me and said, we think there might be a potential violation here, I followed up quickly, I followed up vigorously, I talked to the coaching staff, I talked to the video room staff, and I told them, we've been accused of a violation, let's make sure we're doing everything right. I didn't know about it, I wasn't aware of it, it happened, it was bad, it shouldn't have happened, our team broke the rules, and I'm sure there was some advantage gained from breaking the rules, but unfortunately, had I known about it, I would have stopped it.
Some people will say there is no way you couldn't have known. Do you have any evidence of that?
So I understand that. If I were a fan and I heard about this scandal, I would assume that the GM might have known. So I get that. And let's start by me saying I wish I knew, because if I knew, this never would have gotten to where it got to. I do have a lot of evidence. It's hard to prove that you didn't know something. It's proving a negative. But the investigation interviewed dozens and dozens of people, players, video staff members, coaches, etc. None of them said that I knew. After the investigation was over and I was fired, I got access to about 22,000 text messages that were from personnel in the video room. And it was clear from those messages that they were communicating back and forth about the rule violations. They were aware of the Red Sox and Yankees rule violations. They were aware it was wrong. And they also were using text messages to cheat on the job. They were communicating signs, and this was to coaches, this was to people in the video room. It's all there in black and white, and it's what's also clear from it is who's not involved. I'm not implicated. I'm not in any of those text messages. In fact, there's a few text messages where they say, "Don't tell Jeff."
On deck on the Luhnow interview.
I told him I would like to take a lie detector test because it essentially came down to one person's word that I might have known against my word.
How Luhnow fought to make his case.
Welcome back to the Luhnow interview. In part two of our conversation, the cheating timeline, the investigation, and the emails. Luhnow goes into all of it. And don't forget, there was another Astros scandal that broke before all of this. Vanessa Richardson continues the Luhnow interview.
What were your specific conversations with Rob Manfred during and after the 3-month investigation?
I had two lengthy interviews with Major League Baseball investigators, and there was a lot of back and forth between Rob and Jim, and Rob and Jim's general counsel, Giles. And they were telling me more or less what Rob was thinking. And it was clear to me from the very beginning that the players weren't going to be punished, that the ownership, Jim Crane, was not going to be punished. I asked Rob Manfred for a meeting, and I flew to New York. And I put together a binder. It's about 150 pages long. It's 14 different tabs. And I refuted with facts, with emails, with documents, with testimony, each and every single allegation that was in that charging document. I also looked at him and I told him I would like to take a lie detector test because it essentially came down to one person's word that I might have known against my word. AJ also admitted that he never spoke to me about it and never told me about it. But with me, it was a tougher case. I mean, they extended the investigation for about 2 weeks just so they could find more evidence about me. And how do I know that? I was told that directly from somebody working on the investigation, that you are the target of this investigation. They are going to continue to dig until they find something on you, and they did.
Why would Rob Manfred say no to you taking a lie detector test? Why would he not call your references? Why would he not want that?
Major League Baseball had to deliver a punishment that was perceived as severe to the other clubs. The Dodgers and other clubs, but I know the Dodgers for sure, were adamant about some big punishments, and they wanted the manager and they wanted the general manager to go down in this scandal, and they got it.
When you look at these texts and these emails and you kind of pick out smoking guns per se, how many do you have, and are you and AJ included in any of these text messages, these group texts?
So in the 22,000 text messages, and that's just a small part of the evidence, there's also emails and Slack messages and so forth, a lot of which I haven't seen. Obviously, I have all the ones that I've been copied on, but it's pretty clear that the group, the cabal, if you want to call it, of people in the video room and aligned with the coaches who were executing the video decoding scheme, that they started thinking about it towards the end of 2016. And then really about May of 2017 is when you start to see evidence of execution. And they weren't hiding it in terms of their discussions with one another. It was pretty blatant. They were, assigning duties, who's on codebreaker duty tonight. They were text messaging signs to a coach that would be in the dugout so that he could communicate the signs to the runner at second. And it went on for all of 2017. and it went on for a portion of 2018. Like I said, I argued for and voted for enforcement by MLB, so there was a security agent in the dugout and in the clubhouse in 2018, but they weren't there full time, so it was a little bit more hit and miss in terms of when you would see evidence of it in 18, but it did happen in 18.
The commissioner's report says, other than Cora, this was, quote, player-driven and executed. It also says you were copied on these emails from 2017. How much of those emails did you read that included mentioning a sign-stealing scheme?
So there's 3 documents that MLB pointed to say that I might have known. None of them proved that I knew. The first one is a document describing what's called a decoder. And Rob Manfred has said, and he's been quoted as saying, decoder is not against the rules. There were 2 emails. One email in May of 2017 from someone in the video room. It was a 1,500-word long email. And on or about the 1,000th word, it referred to the system. And it said the system is talking about pitch tipping. The other email from September of 2017, which was sent out, August of 2017, sent out the weekend that Harvey hit. And we were all scrambling to figure out where we were going to play that series. Also 1,500 words long, and on or about page 6, after 12 pictures of George Springer and 12 pictures of Derek Fisher hitting, it mentions, it calls it the sign-stealing dark arts. I didn't read through the entire email. I wish I had, because I might have been curious enough to ask some follow-up questions. About 2 weeks after I received that email, I was clearing out my inbox, and I went through and replied to 19 messages over the course of about an hour and 10 minutes. The last 3 messages I replied to were all done in the last minute, and the very last one was the message in question here. And I wrote back to the author and I said, thanks for your good work, and that was it. And from the timestamps on my reply, it is clear that I spent roughly 10 to 15 seconds on this email. There's no way I got to 1,100 words and read about the sign stealing.
There's another incident before anything about cheating was revealed, and it's Brandon Taubman making insensitive remarks to a female reporter. What are your memories of that night, and what was your role in the cleanup of that?
That was, I was so disappointed that that happened. That should never have happened, first of all. But I was actually more disappointed in how the Astros reacted to that. The night that the organization found out that this was going to be a story, there were several people actively conversing about what to do about it. Now, you know, you probably know this as a reporter, but as a general manager, I don't write press releases. I see them before they go out, if they have to do with baseball operations, and I'll approve a quote if it's supposedly my words, but even my quotes are written by someone else. This particular response was crafted, edited, and written by the person that runs the legal operation for the Astros and the person that runs the marketing and PR for the Astros. Those two wrote it, edited it, and sent it out. 2 days later, we're in Washington, D.C., and that morning I had fired Brandon, and I was asked if I would talk to the media about firing Brandon. I agreed to do it. Nobody else was willing to do it. About 20 seconds before I walked into a room filled with baseball reporters who were all looking to attack somebody, I was instructed by one of the people that wrote the response not to disclose who wrote it and to make everybody understand that it was an Astros response, but not to talk about the people who were involved. I followed those instructions. I sat there for 20 minutes and was attacked by every media outlet in the country. And I know I didn't handle it as well as I could have. But I didn't want to lie, so I told them that I had seen the response before it went out, which essentially made me the face of the response because no one else was willing to face the music. When that interview was over, I received a text message from the other person who had been involved in writing it and crafting it, thanking me for taking one for the team. I shouldn't have taken one for the team. I didn't write that response. It was a horrible response. Should never have happened. But unfortunately, I did. I mean, I take my responsibility in it. I should have stopped it. But that's not my area of expertise. I was busy preparing for the World Series. There are people in the company, the legal department, the marketing department, the PR department. Those are the people that are involved in crisis management, and they botched this one big time.
On deck on the Luhnow interview.
When you go through something like this, you realize who your friends are.
Where he found support after the scandal.
There were some emotional moments during the Luhnow interview. You'll see that here in part 3. The former GM also reveals his biggest regret. Here's Vanessa Richardson.
What is your biggest regret from your time with the Astros?
Undoubtedly, the fact that the success has been stained by what happened in 2017 and 18 to a certain extent. Why we have to soil that with ridiculous cheating executed by people who they didn't ask for permission. They just did it. Whether it's the players or the video staffers, they just decided on their own to do it. And that's a shame, because had they come and asked me for permission, I would have said no. My other regret, quite frankly, is that I looked forward to and I enjoyed the challenge of taking a terrible organization and turning it into a dominant organization, a dominant team. I was looking forward to the challenge of keeping the team dominant over an extended period of time. It's been 6 years of really, really good baseball in Houston, and that's been wonderful for our fans in our city. I was looking forward to how do we take that 6 and turn it into 12. And I think James Click will do a terrific job, I really do, and with the people that are in the front office, I think they've got a good chance of keeping this team relevant for another couple of years.
I was shocked to walk in your house and see Astros pictures, memorabilia, your son's jersey is framed, you have bobbleheads in your office. Are you still rooting for this team?
Very much so. I mean, all the players on the team, from Yuli to, it's unfortunate JV wasn't able to pitch much this year, Jordan, but Bregman, Altuve, I mean, you develop strong relationship with players over the course of time. I feel very close to them and some of the coaches and some of the people in the front office, and absolutely I root for the Astros.
Have you talked to the players, AJ Hinch, anyone in the franchise, and if so, what have those conversations been like?
I have. I keep in touch with AJ. I keep in touch with many of the players. They've been very supportive to me. When you go through something like this, you realize who your friends are, and who was just sort of hanging around because because I happen to be in a position that I could get them tickets or I could tell them fun stuff. But there have been several of the players and staff members that have, that care about what happens to me.
I know this has been really hard on you. How would you describe the last 9 months?
Like I said, nothing I'd wish on somebody else. It's been in some ways the worst of times, but at the same time, it's given me an opportunity to, getting fired for the first time. I mean, I've been working since I was 16 years old, either working or going to school. So to get fired at this point in my career was a little bit stunning, but I never took vacation days, so it was nice to have some time at home.
On deck on the Luhnow interview.
What would you say to Astros fans who are watching this?
What Luhnow wants Houston to remember.
Liberal Shri Kulkarni. His reckless private life is his business. The notorious desert drug parties, the cocaine arrest. But his radical plan for health care will cost us a fortune.
I would support the current bill for Medicare for all.
Kulkarni's plan is so reckless. If we doubled the taxes on every American, it still wouldn't pay for it. Shri Kulkarni. He's not just reckless, he's radical. Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The most basic job of a representative is to lead by example. And during this pandemic, we've seen the devastating consequences of failing to listen to our health experts. Michael McCall's irresponsible failure has put the lives of so many Texans at risk. If I'm fortunate enough to earn your trust, I will fight for the health of every Texan. I'm Mike Siegel, and I approve this message because it's time for a change.
Do you ever want to work in baseball again? And if so, what's next for you?
It would depend a lot on the owners. I was not expecting to be treated the way I was treated at the end by the owners of the Astros. If I trusted the owners and I trusted the team had potential and I wanted to do it again, I know I could. But at the same time, I've taken a hard look at the NFL, at the NBA, a little bit at NHL. I didn't grow up around hockey, so that was a little tougher. Esports, soccer, both in our continent and in Europe. I'm considering all my options at this point.
Why was now the proper time to speak out about this?
Well, after I was suspended and fired, I wanted to take some time to reflect. I didn't want to, I knew that things were being said about me that were wrong, but I also knew that the Major League Baseball was still investigating other teams. The Red Sox were under investigation. I didn't want to get in the middle of that. And then the pandemic hit, and then the season started. And once the season started, I knew I wasn't going to say anything until the Astros were done playing. I didn't want to take away from anything that they were trying to do this year. But it's been hard to read and to hear how I've been portrayed in the media. Think about, for a second, all the people that are with the organization that no one questions why they didn't know. My special assistants, Biggio, Bagwell, Enos Cabell, Reed Ryan, Jim Crane, all the marketing people, they're all around the clubhouse. They're around the players. None of them knew. Why is it why is it all on me? And to read everybody likes to boil things down to sound bites or Twitter or tweets. Luhnow's the mastermind. Luhnow was behind this. This is Luhnow's culture. It's not. Couldn't be further from the truth. And I have to let people know that. My integrity is being questioned here.
What would you say to Astros fans who are watching this?
2017, everything about 2017 was incredible. Beating the Red Sox and then the Yankees and the Dodgers, the three most powerful teams in baseball, and winning our first championship in franchise history. No one can take that away from us. Those are memories that will always be with us. Don't ever let anybody take that away. But at the same time, let's learn from this experience. The Astros broke the rules. They shouldn't have done it. I'm mad about it. We should be mad about it. We should use it as a learning experience. As long as we recognize that it was wrong and we don't do it again, and we learn the lesson from it, there's no reason we can't appreciate all the great things that happened during that time, because those memories will be with me forever. And this city, I gave it everything I had. I want every Houston Astro fan to know that. 8 years, I gave it everything I had.
Vanessa Richardson joins me now. First outstanding job on the interview. Luhnow had a lot to say during your one-on-one sit-down. What do you think the reaction now will be moving forward?
Well, thanks, Randy. And I do want to start off by thanking Jeff and his family for trusting me with sharing their side of the story. This will spark conversation, if anything, no matter where you stand on this. Not only conversation about who was involved with the cheating, but what Luhnow's legacy should be with this Astros franchise.
Vanessa and I will continue our conversation. It's going to be online coming up at 7 o'clock. Just head to click2houston.com/chat. Also on click2houston.com right now. If tonight's portions of the interview wasn't enough for you, you can check out the entire 37-minute conversation with the former Astros general manager, Jeff Luhnow. I'm Randy McElvoy with Vanessa Richardson. Thank you for joining us for the Luhnow interview. Have a great night, everybody.